We talk about these young people, African-American, Latino children, and whatever other minorities might be here where you're dealing with a gap in achievement. Here's a question that we have got to ask ourselves. What do I know about my African-American, Latino students relative to meeting their classroom needs? What do I know about them? See, one cannot teach what one does not know. Let's say, for example, you asked me to be a science teacher. Now, that's not my area of expertise at all. I'd have to do some serious learning. If one asked me to teach science, I can't do it. I couldn't do it this Monday morning because I don't know anything about it. It's not my thing. I can, as far as being an instructional leader and a principal, I have enough to do just that, but I can't go into a classroom and teach it. So that's on the one hand, but on the other hand, one can't necessarily teach whom one does not know either. See, if I don't know my students, how am I going to be effective with them? See, I've got to know them. So, for example, take a look at these questions here. What do I know about keeping them inspired about learning and motivated to excel? Let's say, for example, I've got 25 students in my classroom. They learn differently. They've got different learning styles. What do I know about each of them relative to keeping them inspired? What do I know about each of them relative to motivating them to excel? See, do I know them? Because they don't learn alike. It's in a workshop setting, particularly of this length, I can get away with doing what I'm doing right now. We're adults, we're professional educators, we're aspiring educators. But imagine we're in a classroom, elementary age young people, say third, fourth grade, and the teacher attempts to do a lecture. See, that's not going to work because I got all these different learning styles within my classroom environment, within my learning lab. Can't do a lecture. I've got to figure out how she learns, and realize that they probably learn differently and therefore differentiate my instruction. And then I've also got to know, well, what motivates one versus the other? How do I keep each of them inspired? So now I've got these young people. The data says that I'm losing a tremendous number of them. As far as my African-American Latino students, I'm losing a tremendous number of them. But what am I doing differently to ensure that I'm connecting with each and every one of them? So again, what do I know about keeping them inspired and motivated to learn? Do I know them? Or are they some separate entity from me? See, I've got to know them in order to make the connections with them. Secondly, what do I know about their learning styles? What do I know about the way they learn? And is my instruction addressing the way my young people in my classroom learn? Thirdly, what do I know about their goals and aspirations? See, if one of the purposes of the school is to get them to the next level, well, don't I need to know them in order to know what it is, what the next level means to them, what their goals are, what their aspirations are, and how I can take classroom instruction and connect it to their personal goals and aspirations? Fourthly, what do I know about their needs and interests? All right. See, their needs and interests may not be the same as ours. What do I know about their needs and interests? I've got to get to know them. But see, if the only student that I know is the one that shows up in the classroom, but I don't know him or her outside of the classroom, then I really don't know that child. I just know a fraction of the child. Next, what do I know about their experiences and their realities? See, they have certain experiences, certain realities that me as the classroom teacher, I may not have. But the only way I'm going to really get to know these experiences and realities, I've really got to get into their world. I've got to go out into their community, where they reside. And I've got to become knowledgeable of what that entails, because it could be very different, could be radically different from anything that I've ever experienced. Doesn't matter who I am, but what that world is to them may be a fundamentally different world than what I'm accustomed to as their classroom teacher or even as their building principal. What do I know about their challenges, obstacles, and distractions? And going back to number 5, one of the things that was interesting that I found, school district that I worked with a few years ago, they, I got to their school the day before the students would have come back. So they were taking the teachers on a tour of the community which the students reside. Had a chartered bus. So they asked me to come along. So I said, sure. So we went and we traveled. This is a southern city. And they've stopped in all the various different parts of town and pointed out to the teachers what this part of town represented. So, bless you. So once we got back to the school, I asked the question when I began to speak. I said, how many of you who have taught at least 1 year, how many of you learned something today on this tour, which took about an hour? And most of the hands went up. And I said to them, shame on you if you learned something new on that tour, because what you were exposed to today, you should have already known. They showed, for example, where was the Section 8 housing? Where the gangbangers hung out? What blocks? Where the parks were? Where various different children reside? All that kind of stuff. So you should already know this. These are teachers. I'm thinking, saying to them, these are young people that you work with for 180 days, and you mean to tell me you don't know about the environment that produced them? Now, if one says to me, I'm not comfortable in that environment. So, well, then you're not comfortable with that child. Because, see, the environment is what produced the child. So if I'm afraid of the environment in which they live, then I'm not even comfortable with him because he's a product of that environment. So if we're going to be successful with these young people, these black and Latino children, particularly the males, closing this gap, we've got to make those connections with them all. We have got to get to know them beyond the one that sits at the desk in the classroom. We have to have a fuller range of understanding of them, their realities, their experiences, their challenges, their obstacles, their distractions. We got to know that. And as we expand upon our own knowledge bases and getting to know who they are, we increase the probability exponentially for their success in our classrooms. What do I know about their peers? It's important. Just as a parent needs to know the peers of one's children, well, it's the same thing with us as educators. And when I say peers, they're peers and their impact on learning, and all of these, and their impact on learning. What do I know about their neighborhoods and its impact on learning? What do I know about their parents and their impact on learning? And finally, what do I know about their history and their culture, which is very important, but I don't know if we're going to have time to jump into that the way I want to, the way it deserves it. Perhaps in the second session I will, though. But all of these bullets have impact on instruction, have impact on learning. So therefore, it's incumbent upon us, it behooves us to get to know the child. We have to know who it is that's in our classroom. We have to know who it is that we are working with. We have to know who it is we're providing an education for.